Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Getting ready for our tour at 10:15. Testing 4, 5, 6. Testing 4, 5, 6. Getting ready for our tour at 10:15. Hi, welcome to the Challenger Learning Center. Sorry about that. Hi, welcome to the Challenger Learning Center. My name's Erin Tyree, and a happy STEM Celebration Week. I'm going to give you a tour of the Challenger Learning Center in honor of Space Day. The Challenger Learning Center is here in the Ferguson-Florissant School District in Ferguson, Missouri. We've been here for 20 years. The backstory is that, as some people know, the Challenger Space Shuttle was going to host the first teacher in space, Krista McAuliffe, and everyone was excited to watch her do experiments that kids could watch from space. Unfortunately, the space shuttle exploded shortly after takeoff, but the families of the crew got together and decided they wanted to honor their loved ones with a living legacy, with something that would capture the spirit of that Challenger mission. The mission's goal was to get people excited about space exploration, especially children. And so to continue that mission, they started the first Challenger Learning Center, where students would be able to take on the roles of astronauts, scientists, and engineers in a space mission. Now there are over 40 centers worldwide, and we are at one. Ferguson was selected because one of the Ferguson-Florissant School District teachers was a finalist for the Teacher in Space program from Missouri. But anyways, we're going to give you a tour of a live mission that's happening. The kids just got here and they're just getting situated into mission control and taking their spaceship up into space. And so I'll show you a bit around the building. Follow me. Now you can't just show up and visit the Challenger Learning Center. You have to sign up for a program and come most of the time. But if you're here for a program, we do have some things to keep you entertained while you're waiting in our lobby. A bunch of this is courtesy of Boeing. Back in the day, it was McDonnell, and they were really involved in the space industry. So this is our model of the Gemini capsule. And if you look closely, you can see there are 2 astronauts in there. The whole point of the Gemini program was to do tests for preparation for going to the moon, preparation for the Apollo program. So they wanted to make sure that people could live that long in space, that people could do a spacewalk, that spacecrafts could dock with each other. Their longest mission was 14 days. So imagine 2 weeks cooped up in a little car. That's kind of what they were doing, but the view was spectacular. You can come around here, I'll show you some more artifacts. This is our newest one. This is a picture from the James Webb Space Telescope. It's the Cosmic Cliffs. And it's really exciting for us to think about all the space exploration that is still going on today. But I'll show you some of the history too. Follow me. This whole wall is where we show St. Louis's connection to the space industry. The Mercury and Gemini capsules that were in preparation for the Apollo program that eventually sent us to the moon, Mercury and Gemini were built here in St. Louis. So you can see John F. Kennedy was here to see the capsules. And the astronauts involved in those programs would regularly visit St. Louis so they understood what was going on. And in later days, St. Louis was involved in building rockets that got later astronauts up into space and to the space station. They even built an early space station. And so when students come to our center, we always remind them that you can be involved in aerospace without leaving St. Louis. I always think of Kennedy or Houston, but there's things you can do right here to be involved. I'm going to show you our wall of local astronauts, and then we'll peek in on the students. Now, like I said, there's plenty of ways to be involved in space that don't involve going down to Houston and becoming an astronaut. But that said, there are a lot of people from the region who have become astronauts, people who were born here, people who went to school in the region. So, for example, Joan Higginbotham was a space shuttle astronaut who went to school at Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. Bob Behnken was from here in St. Louis County, and he was on the pilot flight, the initial flight of the SpaceX manned Dragon capsule. So we always encourage students that if they become astronauts, we need them to send us a picture of them so that we can add them to our wall. Everything we do here is about encouraging students that they can be a part of this exciting experience. Now, a mission just got started, so we're going to take a peek in, but a warning, we're going to be doing a little bit of space and time travel. See, today's mission control isn't on Earth. It's on the Mars moon Phobos. So Phobos orbits Mars at a low altitude. It's much closer than Earth's moon is to Earth. And so they can do daily trips to Mars. So our mission control team is monitoring what hopefully will be just a routine trip to the red planet for our spaceship crew. Let's see what they're doing.
Your headset here, you don't have to press anything. They'll communicate back and forth.
They're practicing their comlink check to make sure that they can communicate with the spacecraft people once they get situated.
Navigation, you have a headset as well. Here. Over here for Rogue as well. You have a headset.
So I know you just got started, but can you tell me what your job is?
Right now, I'm just going through and I'm getting
So for starters, you're practicing communicating with the people here, and then you'll be communicating with the people in the spaceship down the line. That's exciting.
Left to right.
We have our clocks here because space exploration is an international process, and so we always like to mark where people might be from, that things are happening at different times, and it's a good way to keep track of things.
Right here. Press the button. I'll read it.
I know you haven't gotten started yet, but can you tell me what your job is?
navigation. Attention all teams. Comm mission control is ready to begin receiving messages. Over.
They're doing the comlink check.
The MTV. Oh, I can hear myself. The MTV crew has successfully achieved stable Martian orbit. Mission control. Do you copy? Over.
MTV, this is mission control. We copy. We look forward to working with you on today's mission. Good luck. Over.
And now we can see them up there. They can't see us.
So this is exciting. So the communication link is working, and clearly the video link is working as well. So from here in mission control, we can watch the people working in the spacecraft. Now, we can take our own trip there to see them in person. Let's do that next. Missions always start, or typically start, in the transporter, which is the most safe place for those tricky takeoffs and landings. Follow me. When students take off, they're able to watch their own takeoff through live video feeds, and we'll go ahead and play one now so you can imagine the experience.
Mars transport vehicle is focus ground. All sinking stations are pressurized telemetry is on point. Guidance stand by for hydraulic. is
Like we said, they're going from Phobos to Mars. Well, we've done the most dangerous part, which is our takeoff. And now I think we've just about docked with the larger spacecraft that's taking people all the way to Mars. So let's go through the airlock. Follow me. Now, obviously in space, your life depends on artificial life support systems working properly. So we want lots of doors so that if there's a problem in one area, if there's not the right amount of pressure, if there's a leak, if there's something wrong with the air, that it doesn't affect everyone. So that's one of the reasons why we have several different areas. This can also help air from leaking if there's a pressure difference. So we're going to go through here. It'll be dark for just a moment, but then we'll be in the spacecraft. Come on in. All right, we'll be there in just a second. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the spacecraft. So this is our Mars transport vehicle. You can see all the astronauts have just gotten started with their tasks. There's a lot that needs to be done. We can have crews of up to 30 students with half in mission control and half in the spacecraft. We have a smaller crew today, which means they have to do even more work. So this is our life support station. At life support, people need to monitor our air and water systems. So they're taking actual pressure readings, humidity readings, temperature readings, all to make sure that the spacecraft stays a livable environment. They'll adjust our oxygen systems and test our water. Over at our robotic arms, we have to do a couple different things. Part of it is testing the robotic arms to see how much weight they can lift. And part of it is vacuuming some rocks to see what kind of rock samples are visible. So I'm going to try my best to help out here. Let's see what we can do. Once I've cleared away some of the rock, I'll be able to tell more about it. And let's see, so from here, I can already tell that it's a red rock with some white veining. So I'll be able to report that to mission control, and then mission control will be able to hopefully tell us what kind of rock it is, and if we think it was formed in water, which would be really exciting. We have a glove box here to do more tests. We have some rock samples, and like before, we're going to do experiments on them to figure out what samples might be present. This time we're going to do some scratch tests. So scratch tests work by seeing what scratches what, and based on that, you'll be able to tell how hard the rock is. When you know how hard the rock is, that gives you some information about what kind of rock it is. All right, let's take a look at the doctor. Excuse me, could you tell me a little about your job?
I am a medical assistant, and I am checking to see if anyone is safe or anything.
Excellent. And is this a radiation scan you're starting with? Well, that's important because I know we're all exposed to.
Everyone's safe and make sure everyone.
Yeah. With space, I'm glad you're checking for radiation because that can be a big problem up here since we don't have Earth's atmosphere. All right, well, I'll let you get back to work, doctor. The biology team is doing an experiment to see if any oxygen is present in these samples of soil. So they'll have to report oxygen levels, and then the team in mission control can compare that to what's expected for when there's for oxygen based on their information there. Teams will also do scans of our plants. They'll do swabs to see what kind of bacteria might be growing, and then they can analyze that later. We'll also have them swab our water systems because obviously we don't want too much bacteria growing and affecting our astronauts. So on the spacecraft, we have several different jobs. One of the overarching goal is to do science. We want to launch a rover. Another goal is to keep the crew safe so that they can do those things. And in order to keep the crew safe, we have to keep the physical mission running. So keeping the spaceship a livable environment and getting it where it needs to go. All right, let's see. Oh, so you can see here, there are cameras where they can monitor themselves. And that helps them know what else is going on. Now, while the mission is going on, I also want to show you some other things that are happening at the Challenger Learning Center. But to do that, we're going to have to go over to our makerspace. While we walk over there, I want to show you a video that NASA made explaining the Artemis program. The Artemis is what's going to get us back to the moon, and that's sort of what our astronauts here are training for. By the time that they are adults, then hopefully Artemis will have been a success and we'll be ready to go to Mars. And this will explain how it all goes together.
Years ago, we pioneered a path to the moon. The trail we blazed cut through the fictions of science and showed us all what was possible. Today, our calling to explore is even greater. To go farther, we must be able to sustain missions of greater distance and duration. We must use the resources we find at our destinations. We must overcome radiation, isolation, gravity, and extreme environments like never before. These are the challenges we face to push the bounds of humanity. We're going to the moon to stay by 2024, and this is how.
This all starts with the ability to get larger, heavier payloads off planet and beyond Earth's gravity.
For this, we designed an entirely new rocket.
The Space Launch System. SLS will be the most powerful rocket ever developed.
And with components in production
and more in testing,
this system is capable of being the catalyst for deep space missions.
We need a capsule
that can support humans from launch
through deep space and return safely back to Earth. For this, we built Orion.
This is NASA's next generation human space capsule.
Using data from lunar orbiters that continue to reveal the moon's hazards and resources.
We're currently developing an entirely new approach to landing and operating on the moon.
Using our commercial partners to deliver science instruments and robotics to the surface, we are paving the way for human missions in 2024.
Our charge is to go quickly and stay, to press our collective efforts forward with a fervor that will see us return to the moon in a manner that is wholly different than 50 years ago.
We want lunar landers that are reusable, that can land anywhere on the lunar surface. The simplest way to do so is to give them a platform in orbit around the moon from which to transition.
An orbiting platform to host deep space experiments and be a waypoint for human capsules. We call this lunar outpost Gateway.
The beauty of the Gateway is that it can be moved between orbits.
It will balance between the Earth and Moon's gravity.
In a position that is ideal for launching even deeper space missions.
In 2009, we learned that the moon contains millions of tons of water ice.
This ice can be extracted and purified for water when we separate an oxygen for breathing or hydrogen for rocket fuel.
The moon is quite uniquely suited
to prepare us and propel us to Mars and beyond.
This is what we are building.
This is what we're training for.
This we can replicate throughout the solar system.
This is the next chapter of human space exploration.
Humans are the most fragile element of this entire endeavor. And yet we go for humanity. We go to the moon and on to Mars to seek knowledge and understanding and to share it with all. We go knowing our efforts will create opportunities that cannot be foreseen. We go because we are destined to explore and see it with our own eyes. We turn towards the moon now, not as a conclusion, but as preparation, as a checkpoint toward all that lies beyond. Our greatest adventures remain ahead of us. We are going.
We're going.
We are going.
We are going.
We're going.
All right, I'm here in our makerspace with Robert Powell, one of the masterminds behind the makerspace that we share with STEAM High. So can you tell us more about it, Robert?
Yeah, absolutely. Our STEAM Academy High School is located at McClure South Berkeley, which is right next door to Challenger. Makes it very convenient. Quick little 2-minute walk across the way to enter this space that we help them to create. It's intended to be a multi-use space, meaning that it's open to all the teachers in this building to come in and do their projects. Part of the planning that goes behind doing something like that, though, is making it easy and convenient for teachers to get in here, know what's available to them, and be able to reset between classes. So let me just show you a couple of small features that we have. One is these tabletops that we developed here. Basically, you've got a nice little work surface on one side. On the other side, you've got a whiteboard for ideation. So that makes it easy for students to be creative and go right from their ideas to actually then starting to make things. Another thing that we thought about is if teachers are coming in, they're not necessarily familiar with all the tools or the space, we want it to be super easy for them. So you'll notice that all of the drawers and cabinets are color coded. And beyond that, we went ahead and color coded all the tools that go in those drawers. That way, they will know when your teacher's standing there and a student runs up and says, "Oh, Mr. Powell, I got to go, sorry," just as the bell rings. You don't have to wonder where that screwdriver goes. It goes right in the hand tool section of the pink drawers. And to make it even easier, if you look up above there, we even added the color coding to the ceiling. Again, just to make it super simple, super easy for them. And then we get into some of our specialty stuff here. We've got, one of the things that makes this great is that we've got access to tools that you wouldn't have in your classroom. And students often, unless they're taking a tech class or a shop class, don't get to use. And so you don't necessarily get to use, power tools for your Spanish class or in your art class and those sorts of things. So now the teachers from all those classes can come in, get a chance to have the students really be creative and think about how you want to implement the content and do some hands-on, really cool hands-on stuff. All right, come on this way. Be careful. Safety is our number one rule here. Over here, it's a little bit messy to my taste, but we've got our little tech corner. This is where we've got our 3D printer. There's a vinyl cutter in this bag, all ready to go to make T-shirts and any other vinyl cut projects that you would like. And you caught me just as I was about to begin a laser cut project. I haven't set it up quite yet, but what I'll be doing is turning sheets of foam board like this. This is just a plain sheet or a third of a sheet of Dollar Tree foam board. And I'm about to turn that into a nice little hands-on STEM project. This is a glider. You might want to get a wide angle here. So that's one of the great advantages of having a maker space, is that you can go from super simple basic materials, cardboard, foam board, plywood, and make some really, really fun projects.
So this is also for the high school, and can you talk about what will be going on this summer in this room?
Oh, absolutely. In July 11th, 12th, and 13th, we're actually hosting an educator camp. So teachers, after school educators all get to come in and go to camp. We're going to do some fun projects. We'll teach them how to use some of this equipment. When you walked in, you probably heard I had my music going. So just a little. This is one of our crowd favorites. So we will be doing this particular project, turning old vintage luggage into a Bluetooth. Sorry, here we go. Turning vintage luggage into a Bluetooth speaker. That's one of our favorite projects to do with teachers, and we certainly will be doing that one.
So how many times have you been to thrift stores in the past year?
I couldn't count them.
And what about kids? What will kids be doing in here this summer?
So in here, particularly, we've got, this is where we do our engineering camps. So our ages 12 and up, I believe. Let's see, actually 10 years old if you're doing rockets. So if you come to our rockets camp, well, here's a nice, right behind the camera here, good splattering of the type rockets that we've made with students over the years. And so we'll make model rockets with them, teach them the safety aspects of it, teach them design aspects, and they actually leave having made a bunch of rockets as well as their own launch system, so they can continue that hobby at home. In addition to that, we're doing a drone camp for students who are ages 12 and up. They'll actually be making their own drone that they'll fly. And then we're doing an inventors, or we call it a maker camp. So again, just teaching them how to use all these tools, teaching them how to develop a project from beginning to end.
That's exciting. Anything else you want to share about the makerspace?
No, if you want to come get a look at our makerspace, feel free to contact me. I'm always happy to show off.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to head back to the main building, and I can show you our classroom, and we can check in on the students as well. So while I'm over there, you can learn a little bit more about the Challenger Learning Center with this video. Welcome to the Challenger Learning Center, St. Louis. In January 1986, the crew of the Space Shuttle Challenger launched on its 10th flight. Among the crew was a teacher who was chosen for the mission to teach lessons from space. Tragically, the crew perished in an accident shortly after launch. After the accident, Challenger Center was created to carry on the legacy of the heroic Challenger astronauts and continue the mission of inspiring the future generation of explorers. Today, school, community, and corporate groups throughout the region get to take part in exciting space mission experiences where participants transform into engineers, medical professionals, geologists, and computer programmers. And it isn't just for kids. We help corporate groups, families, and community groups boost their problem-solving, teamwork, and communication skills with a variety of space-themed activities. And just like the STEM professionals at space agencies worldwide, every participant has an important role on a team, and all teams must work together to successfully complete their mission objectives.
A trip to a Challenger Learning Center brings classroom lessons to life. We work every day to engage students in science, technology, engineering, and math, and inspire them to pursue careers in those fields.
Spacecraft, this is Mission Control. We read you. Over.
The Challenger Center experience is dynamic and unparalleled to anything else offered to students.
Visit us today to learn how you can experience one of our award-winning programs. Your mission awaits you at challengerstl.org. We're back here at the Challenger Learning Center's main building, and we're here in our classroom, which you can see is mostly just a normal classroom, but we do a lot of exciting things here. One of the things that many groups do when they come for a field trip is to design a rocket. Our younger students are taught how to make a rocket out of construction paper and masking tape, some simple supplies. Our older students are not told how to make a rocket. They're just given a book with information and a budget of $1 million, and they have to purchase the supplies themselves. But we do use rocket grade construction paper here, and so it might cost you $100,000. Anyways, the teams have to work together to figure it out. We have a budget officer, a project manager, a safety supervisor. Everyone's doing different jobs, but everyone's contributing to making a rocket that works. And then they'll launch the rocket on our compressed air launch system. Now, really, we should be launching this outside, and outside it can do a lot of PSI, but we'll go ahead and start it here. 3, 2, 1. That gives you a general idea. If you take a look over here, we have another 3D printer running. This one is working on printing out nose cones. One of the things that groups can choose to do is to purchase a 3D printed nose cone. Or, of course, they can make one out of paper or cardstock. They have to decide what they want to spend their budget on. Over here, we have different supplies that the students can use for their rocket workshop. Every team is given a request for a proposal explaining the goals of the day and what their table, their team, their company has to do. They want to win this lucrative contract for making a rocket. And then once they've gotten their budget approved, we'll give them authorization to actually get the supplies. You can see we have a lot of materials to work from. And some of the students are surprised that when they're paying $10,000 for a metal weight, it's actually a penny, but that's all part of the fun. The other thing we use this room for is some of our younger students' summer camps. So our engineering camps are at the makerspace where Robert was, but this is our home base for our astronaut training camps. During the astronaut training camps, students will do a combination of team building, of astronomy activities, of engineering activities, and of course, doing space missions. I'll show you a couple of the activities that are favorites. One of the things we love to do is to make simple materials into something cool. There's something special about things that are magical, like the space mission that you can never do at home, but we also want to make sure students know that, that you don't have to have magical tools to do engineering, to do projects. So you can see this is made out of a dollar store scrub brush, some craft supplies, a battery pack, a motor, a craft motor. This is a hot glue gun stick, and combined, we can use it to make something that vibrates around. So in a matter of a class period, a student could walk away saying, I've built a robot. I've troubleshooted to figure out what's not working. I've used some creativity to make it my own, and I've made something that goes. I should mention that these are also kits that we can prepare for you. So if you're a teacher or an after-school care provider and you want to make something like this, but you don't want to hunt on your own for all these supplies, let us know, and with enough warning, we can prepare kits to get to you so that you can make these with your students, and we can show you some videos for how to do them. Because, like I said, we're not trying to make it magical. We want this to be accessible to everyone. A similar, slightly more difficult project that you can also get and that we do with campers is our marker bot. So much like a washing machine that is off-center, that doesn't have its clothes evenly distributed, having an off-center a hot glue gun stick makes this whole thing vibrate. And in the case of markers for the legs, you can make some robot-built artwork. And activities like this can be a great way of leveraging that whether students love STEM and engineering or not, they might have artistic skills that can also be put to use. The last thing I'll show you is some activities from that we've used before in our maker camp that Robert was talking about, or in our teacher maker programs. So this is a whole little house that is programmed with an Arduino, which is a little microprocessor, a microcomputer. And when that's on, students or teachers can program this to light up a house on a specific sequence. They can tell whole stories around it. You can walk through stories about going into a different room, going to sleep, all of that. But in the process, they're learning the basics of programming and tying it into a tangible thing that you can see. I'll grab a marker to show you one other activity that is remarkably satisfying, which is our fan art. So a homemade spirograph type thing. And it's not made out of super fancy materials. This is a fan for a computer that you can get anywhere. Switches you can get at hobby shops. And we decided to laser cut a box using the laser cutter that Robert showed us. But you can also just use any sturdy cardboard box to make something that can get pretty artistic. So for our summer camps, they run a week long and they're all summer long, and we have scholarships available. We have camps for children as young as 8, and before and after care are available. So we'd love to see some of you or some of your students this summer as well. Now, another opportunity for you to visit us is the Boeing STEAM and Space Day, which Challenger is running, and that is on June 24th. So on June 24th, we will have 2 things going on. We will have workshops for teenagers so that they can spend a few hours making complicated projects, programming things, or building robots. And then we'll also have free-flowing activities for families to do. And so they'll be able to just go from tabletop activity to activity, and the activities will be run by community partners and by Boeing volunteers. And then we'll also be running mini space missions so that you'll get just a preview, a little taste of what it's like to be an astronaut in our spacecraft. Speaking of our space missions, I want to check in on our team. Let's go back to mission control one time.
We have.
What's happening?
We got an asteroid coming.
Uh-oh.
And it's going to hit Mars, and we're trying to determine where it's going to hit near our landing site, or if it may damage any of our bases, greenhouse, that sort of thing. So
Uh-oh.
Oh,
that's
bit
concerning.
of a busier time, kind of important.
All right.
Also the time to see if our crew needs to land and get out of the way.
Okay, well, I don't want to take too much time, but I am curious what everyone's doing. So, excuse me, can I ask, what are you doing right now because of this asteroid?
Right now, I'm trying to figure out what the asteroid's speed and size is.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, that'll be important for knowing who needs to evacuate or what's going on. Okay, cool. Well, I will let you get back to that. And let's see what some other teams are doing.
So our bot team is also doing some trying to find out some stuff.
All right. I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you tell me what you're working on?
I'm trying to find like where the debris and stuff will go.
Ooh, that'll be important.
So it doesn't. I have to find out, like, hopefully it doesn't hit any of this important stuff.
Yeah, we'll have to know where that is so we know who to evacuate and where to evacuate to. Okay. And Chem officer, we talked to you before, but how is that? How are communications going? Is everything working? So you have to make sure that we get all the information. All right. Well, I'll let you stay on that. We don't have a geology team here right now, but before I was telling you about the rocks and the rocks that I reported on from the spacecraft. This is the team that would figure out what's going on. And 90s kids like me remember the game Guess Who? And this is basically guess who with rocks. So they'll take the information that the spacecraft gave them, and from that, they can determine what rock it might be. So for example, our rock was red, and so we would block off any rock that isn't red. And our rock had veins. So let's see, this one doesn't have veins. That's not there. And our rock had white veins, yes. And so we are guessing, my best guess is that this would be feldspar. But obviously the geologist would know more about that. Let's check on the nav team.
Basically, when this hits here, you have to tell them to go and push up their throttle. They're going to have to keep it from overheating and not using too much fuel. And then this will start going up. And when the current velocity reaches the target velocity, you tell them to stop. And then there'll be a thing where you lock it in with the official one. Your nav, the nav person on the spacecraft, you have to coordinate and talk back and forth. Right. So I am not sure where they have disappeared to.
You can ask
checking the fuel at the moment.
You can ask your comm officer to tell them to put on their headset. You need to.
So you can send them a message, the comm link. Well, you're going to send it to your comm officer, and they're going to announce it.
So you can tell the navigation team here has had to do a lot of calculations so we can get a smooth descent to the surface of Mars. But obviously they have to work with their teammates in the spacecraft and the MTV. Let's take a look at some other situations.
Rogue team has been hard at work up there as well.
All right.
Lots of communication.
So we talked to our doctor before. The doctor, once she's done taking our radiation readings from the spacecraft, we'll be able to send them here. And once this emergency has passed, then hopefully somebody can examine those radiation levels and just make sure the crew is staying safe. All right, take a look over here. So if you look, I don't want to interrupt them, but on this screen, you can actually see the Rove team is in here assembling the inner workings of this remotely operated vehicle that we hope to land on the surface of Mars. But to know what pieces are needed, our team here in Mission Control needs to tell them what to do. So it takes a lot of communication skills to make this work. And I think they're doing a good job. Let's listen in again.
They have to get in and get out before.
How is your assembly going?
So we're doing pretty good right now, but we're trying to find out what to put on the last two locations on.
Well, we're going to be.
Oh, weird. That was weird. Oh, asteroid might already be causing problems for us. So you're figuring out the last few pieces. Does that mean like it's up to you at this point? Like you have all the most important things?
We have most of it. We have to do that, and then we can.
Okay, cool. And can I ask what's been the most challenging part of your job?
Probably the communication, but also partially the part that we're on right now, trying to figure out which ones to do.
All right. Well, I should let you talk to your teammate then probably so you can do that. Okay. All right, cool. Well, thank you for talking. There's an announcement.
Our teams in Mission Control have finished analyzing the situation and have determined that the asteroid is nearing Mars. Its trajectory seems to be heading towards Mars MTV landing site. We have calculated the time of impact, and you will have just enough time to land, refuel, and launch back towards Phobos. All right, so I need officer, if you will, in your binder there, if you will turn to the descent tab for me.
Mission Control, this is MTV. I have a navigation message for the entire crew. Over.
They're going to have to do an emergency landing on Mars. They can't just turn around midair. So even though the asteroid's coming, they're going to have to land and get back.
Mission Control, this is the MTV. The firing parameters have been entered into the navigation. computer. The MTV is now ready to enter Mars orbit. Please observe the monitors. Over.
MTV, this is Mission Control. We are standing by. Good luck. Over.
To their descent burn, they will then.
Mission Control, this is the MTV. The MTV has successfully began its ascent towards the surface of Mars. Over.
MTV, this is Mission Control. We have a visual. Congratulations. Over.
That's the easy part. Now they're gonna make a landing and get out of there
Mission
quick.
Control,
So.
this is the MTV. I have a navigation message for the entire crew. Over.
They're into the landing pad now.
MTV, this is Mission Control. We are ready to receive. Over.
Mission Control, this is the MTV. Landing information has been entered into the computer, and we are ready to begin landing procedures. Please observe the monitors. Over.
So the descent was successful, but now they have to actually
MTV,
land on the
this is Mission
surface.
Control. We are standing by and will monitor your descent. Good luck.
This is a
Over.
multi-stage process. Take a look. First, they have to separate off from the larger spacecraft because only part of it goes to Mars. Then they'll rely on aerobraking, which is just air resistance. Next up, they need to deploy their parachutes.
Their ship here will go down enough.
Now, parachutes are necessary but not sufficient because Mars has a slow atmosphere, which is why they also have to use these rocket thrusters. But we have touchdown!
Mission Control, this is the MTV. Successfully landed on the surface of Mars. All systems are green. Over.
MTV, this is Mission Control. We acknowledge and have a visual. Great job to the navigation team for all of their hard work. Over.
Once the MTV has refueled, we recommend an immediate liftoff. Please make an immediate liftoff.
Yeah, I saw how big that asteroid crater hole is.
Alrighty, yeah, so they are going to refuel and get out of there pretty quickly. So, as we calculated how long it would take, we're not gonna have enough time to hang around. They're gonna take off, dock back with our MTV there, and then they will take that back. Phobos, where we are, here. Alrighty, so we are we're gonna meet them back across the hall, but before that, would you mind putting your headsets up? If you got any pencils or anything for the back, push your chairs in. If you have a silver folder, do you mind handing?
But there you have it. The mission didn't go as planned, but the team was able to pivot and they were able to get the spacecraft crew landed and then back off of Mars before the asteroid hit. I imagine they're going to have to spend a lot of time figuring out what to do now, but hopefully they'll be able to still launch that probe, launch that remotely operated vehicle that we saw them working on, and explore Mars and continue their search for water. Since we have a little bit of extra time, I figure I'll go ahead and take you outside for an outdoor rocket launch. Oops, rocket. weather permitting, we always launch outside. You'll be able to see our model rocket launcher, our model launch system that was actually built by students. Now, if this were our older students doing the Great Rocket Design Challenge, they would be in charge themselves of pumping it up and doing the release. The safety officer would be trained in how to do a proper release, and they would decide the angle. This is always how we get our workout for the day. Uh-oh. We're gonna see if this works. This, I might have grabbed a bad rocket launcher because it kind of did a little pop, but we'll see if it works. Ready? Fingers crossed. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go get it, and I'll show you the outdoors on the way. This area here is where kids get to play at lunchtime when they're here for our summer camps. During rocket camp, they'll also be launching our rockets out in this parking lot. Usually they land somewhere where we can get them, either in the parking lot or sometimes on the tennis courts or baseball field. Sometimes they land on the roof of the high school, and that's a little trickier. So you can say that for a rocket that's just made out of paper, it can go pretty far. If you take a look here, we have our picnic tables. This is where groups eat lunch if they're going to be here all day. And like I said, it's where our campers are. So that's our tour for you. So if you're interested in visiting, like I said, you can come for a summer camp or for a teacher maker camp, a teacher summer camp. You can come for our family days, our Boeing STEAM and Space Day on June 24th. Or you can reach out to us about a private program such as a birthday party. We also have programs for Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. And so we'd love to have you come for one of those and possibly even earn a badge. So with that, this is Commander Tyree signing off.